Thank you very much, Shalom, and greetings to you all. Now, this is a different presentation. I flipped this week and next week. This week we read the Torah portion, Tzav, command. But I'm going to talk about it next week. And instead, and the reason is, we read Torah this week but not next because it's Passover. And I'd rather talk about the Passover holiday and its meaning this week before the event, which will be Wednesday evening and Thursday evening, when Jews the world over gather for their Seders. And next week, instead of talking about Passover, because we're halfway through, I'd rather go over this week's reading, which in many ways leads directly to the following week. So not having a week in between is actually better in many ways. Now, this is a very important holiday, and this one is more important than you may realize. This holiday commemorates one thing: freedom. We're living in a world where that gift of God is rapidly disappearing. Don't fool yourself into thinking it's always been and will always be. There's no privacy anymore. It's illegal to say bad things about government. All speech and thoughts are censored. And there's a systematic attempt to dumb down society by removing the ability to critically think. Children stopped being taught to think practically a generation ago. And it's rapidly getting worse. Don't think. Don't research. Ask Google. Ask ChatGPT. Get an immediate answer, and whatever you do, don't question it. I'm telling you, do question it. Question everything. Start thinking again. Now, the celebration of this event, it's an annual gathering around the world with families and friends partaking in the Seder, a word that means order, and simply gives us the order of events, but it is a word given to represent now the entire evening. Like we say, bread for food. There are 15 steps to the order of the evening. They're listed in the haga, the book we read on this evening. All the steps are sometimes followed, sometimes not. That's why this evening can be 45 minutes. It could be 6 hours. Now, generally, only 2 of the things done are called for in the Torah instructions for the holiday. Officially, this is the festival of unleavened bread, not Passover. But if you said that to people, they'd think you were daft. They go to relatives and read out of the same book every year. They discuss nothing. They read. Each of the parts of this modern-day 15-step dance combines sight, sound, smells, tastes, all the sensations of our lives in an evening dedicated to sensuality, which leads to talking and to learning, to sharing, and to inspire. While it undergoes changes in every generation, those changes tend to be quite small, so it has really not changed very much in the last 2,000 years. Throughout the evening, we undertake a very exotic dance, a history which opens us to the ritual relating to what has the most important holy day in the Bible been diminished, which is the celebration of freedom, and it's been replaced by, of course, Yom Kippur. But this was the holiest day of the year. This is your chance to not just honor an ancient event, but to change the direction of life. The first Seder and most memorable was the original one, about 3,470 years ago, on the eve of freedom. Second most memorable, probably even more famous, might have been what is called the Last Supper. And this, what you're doing tonight, you can make the third most memorable because it is the one where you can take the meaning of the original and make it part of your life. This is a celebration for everyone. It's not a religious holiday. It doesn't matter if you're Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, feline, canine. It was not and is not a religious holiday. It never was. It is a chosen opportunity to celebrate freedom from constraint and fear. And who does not need that? We know this is a holiday built around a journey from bondage and constraint to freedom and redemption, but it's more than history. It is a tangible, palpable connection to a timeless heritage. We've all wandered the desert of lack and fear. Many continue to do so as we continue to search for connection, for hope, for utility, for unity. Of course, it's a night for questions, all prefaced by the one that says, why is this night different from all others? And it is different from all others. It is a night in which we gather the world over in commitment to remember and recount. It's a time for each of us to be fully present and open to the mysteries about to unfold, a time for our souls to cry out against fear, indifference, injustice, inequality, as we work toward understanding and enlightenment. 15 steps of the evening are listed in all the books. Most people do not do all of them, but the basic Seder obligations, which pretty well everyone does, are the following ones. We have matzah. We drink 4 cups of wine. 1 at the start, following Kiddush. Before the meal, after reciting the story. Grace after the meal, and after the Psalms. We eat bitter herbs. We tell the story of Exodus. And we sing psalms of praise. Those are the ones that people tend to do, and they don't even do all of those. It's so easy to combine many of the listed steps. People continue to read from a book called the Haggadah. And the opening of every Haggadah is, we were slaves to Pharaoh in Egypt. That's the point of the Exodus, to break free of slavery. Now, Haggadah is actually a word that means to tell, and comes from Exodus 13:8, V'Haggadah l'diber b'yom hahu, and you shall tell your son. The words of the Talmud. In every generation, a person is obligated to view themselves as if they personally left Egypt. That is you, that is now. It's your journey. It's your example. And in the Haggadah itself, it says, even if we were all wise, all men of understanding, all elders, all knowledgeable of Torah, it will be incumbent upon us to speak of the Exodus from Egypt, to speak of freedom from constraint. There are very few prayers said during the holiday, and those that are refer to Passover as Zamein Charchutenu, the time of our freedom. Not the time of their freedom, but our freedom, your freedom. This holiday is inviting you to make it current, make it personal. Like the 10 Commandments at the Great Epiphany, which were spoken to the singular you individually. This is about your individual freedom. Don't read the story. Don't read the book. Listen to those with you. Listen to them tell their story. You tell your story. What did you need to free yourself from? How did you do it? Be an example. Eat the food, drink the wine or juice, wash your hands, do a quick aura cleanse. The metaphoric separation, secular and sacred. Feel the touch of water as it cleanses you. Feel the touch of your loved ones as you share a momentous event. These are the things we engage in every day, and they are the keys to life. The story of Passover is inexorably connected to the biblical account of the Israelites' exodus from Egypt, which is one of the most popular narratives from the ancient world. If you had to summarize it, it was an event which engaged and provided 3 major things. The ritual of protection from death, the overcoming of bitterness, anger, and sadness in life, and joining the ranks of the holy. Those 3 things. Those 3 things are more than enough. But on top of that, you also get to face and understand your fears. And that has a more personal meaning for many. It can apply to anyone, anytime, because those are things we all can feel. In the Bible, the 7-day holiday is known as Hag HaMatzot, the Feast of Unleavened Bread. But if you Google Passover, you get taken to Wikipedia, the new authority on everything, soon to be completely replaced by AI and ChatGPT. And it says that Passover, also called Pesach, biblical Hebrew, Hag HaPesach, Romanized, Hag HaPesach. It's a major Jewish holiday that celebrates the biblical story of the Israelites' escape from slavery in Egypt. It occurs on the 15th day of the Hebrew month of Nisan, the first month of Aviv, or spring. It's now pretty well the universal definition. But that's turning the most important holiday in the Bible into a celebration of history, which is what we do, what we are accustomed to. Birthdays, anniversaries, marriages, graduations, deaths, each are historic events. I think we took a wrong turn somewhere. Jewish holidays or holy days were not designed to celebrate history. They do, but they're designed for what the holiday meant. And this holiday was the most important because nothing is more important than freedom. Freedom not from geography, but from reality. Egypt is from the Greek Egyptos. But in the biblical Hebrew, Egypt was Mitzrayim. It was a word meaning restriction, constraint. It was about freeing yourself from constraint. This was and is a holiday about freedom, but not from the country Egypt, but from the restriction and constraints of life, from whatever holds you as a prisoner, whatever you have made your Pharaoh. Hop in your Wayback Machine or your DeLorean, Set the dial back in time to the evening of the 15th of Nisan, 3,400 years ago. You're in your own home. Over the last couple of weeks, some amazing things have transpired, things that have no earthly explanation. Relegated to a small part of the traditional service are the events that you've been witnessing. You have lived through 9 unbelievable plagues. Those plagues counter creation. They reflect the tree of life and the 10 commandments, which you've not even heard yet. They are cosmic in scope. And on this night of questions, we have to ask ourselves whether these plagues may still be plaguing our lives. The evils in Pandora's box set free upon the world, the calling card of God as he made himself known to the world. So during the evening, reflect on these events, the plagues of Egypt, Makot Mitzrayim. And this is done during the service. And you know what? It's actually a favorite part for many, because for each plague, we put a drop of wine on our plate. Let's begin by doing something like that. And let's quickly review what these plagues are. The first one was blood, dam, the life force of man, the one true forbidden food. His ki, his soul, his nefesh, his ruach. The life force flows through the blood, and we're warned against its consumption. But now we have to ask, has my lifeblood been cut off? Has my energetic love of life and experience been curtailed? Just as importantly, have I cut off someone else's? We then had frogs, tzvaradae. They might not kill you, but we all know when you touch a frog, you get a wart. What are the warts in my life? Am I the wart in someone else's? Lice, keenum, vermin. They don't kill, but they're bloodsuckers. Are there bloodsuckers in your life? Are you a bloodsucker in another's? Beasts, arov, swarming creatures. This is often mistaken for plague of animals. But really it's about gnats and other swarming things that interfere with the life of survival. In fact, this is one of the most dangerous plagues of all. In several instances in the Torah, and I tell you this always, we are told of the danger of swarming creatures. This is the warning of the mob mentality. Are you part of a mob? Are you the target of a mob? If you're Jewish, you're now the target of a mob. Our fifth plague, pestilence, deve. It's infectious disease. One of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. What many believe we went through with COVID. Pestilence is a term that makes you cringe, like leprosy. It has social implications. If you have it, you're an outcast. Are you an outcast? Do you cast out others? Boils, shchin, another disease. But this is a visible disease. Visible differences incubate discrimination. Do you discriminate? Are you discriminated against? Hail, barad, hard balls of ice and snow. Doesn't sound so bad. After all, it's water, the birth of life, but it comes as a destroyer of crops. It means there's no food. It's unpredictable, brings devastation more often than not. But this was burning hail, fire and water, 2 opposites which fight each other. Has hail held you back? Where do you feel devastation in your life? Have you devastated another? Are you battling within yourself? Locusts, arbe. The second of our swarming creatures. 2 swarming creatures and 10 plagues tells you something. Great danger of the swarming mass. And locusts contribute nothing to society. They are the worst kind of natural disaster. There's some communities that are considered locusts because they feed off what others produce. They produce nothing of their own. They only bring devastation. Do you contribute and produce? Do you feed off others? Are there parasites in your life? Darkness, Hoseth, probably the most prevalent. How many of us still live in darkness? Do you fear the light because it hurts your eyes? What can we each do to help bring more light to the world? Start by bringing it into your own life. Finally, we were told to take the lamb we had chosen the other day, Exodus 12:7. They will take some of the blood and place it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel on the houses in which they will eat it. We take a brush of hyssop, the herb of cleansing in the Bible. We dip it in the blood of the lamb. We mark our doorposts with it. It is a sign, because the final plague is coming tonight. Death of the firstborn. Makat becharot. Death takes many forms. It's around us. We cannot see it, but on another level, we all know people whose spirit has died. They go through the motions of life. Sometimes it's because of hardship. Sometimes it's because their own spirits have been crushed, ridiculed, scorned. Where have I crushed another? Where have I been crushed? Where have I been encouraging? Where have I been encouraged? Each of us has undergone those things. Each of us has a memory that triggers those feelings within us. These are the 10 plagues we each face every day of our lives. We can each do something about every one of them. We can ensure they're not part of our lives going forward. As I've said, that's actually relegated to a very small part of the traditional reading. Not at the beginning, but I think it's something to keep in mind during the whole process. Tonight you're being encouraged to take history and to make it relevant. The Exodus is to be your story of freedom. Pharaoh is the fear and constraint you face, and it's the one you created. The instructions for the holiday are actually laid out in Exodus 12:5 and from 12:18 to 26. They're really quite simple. We read them every year, but we tend to bypass them completely. The Lord said to Moses and to Aaron in the land of Egypt, saying, "This month is the beginning of months for you. It's the first month of the year for you. Speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, on the 10th of this month, let them each take a lamb per house. And if the household will be too few for a lamb, then he and his neighbor who is close to his house will take it according to the count of persons, and it will be for you to watch over until the 14th day of the month. All the community of the congregation of Israel will slaughter it between the 2 evenings. And they will take hyssop, and some of the blood, and place it on the 2 doorposts and on the lintel of the house in which they will eat it. They will eat the meat in this night. They will eat it fire roasted, and with unleavened bread on bitter herbs. You shall eat it like this, your hips closed, your shoes on your feet, your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover, Pesach Hu Adonai. And I shall pass through the land of Egypt in this night. And I shall strike every firstborn in the land of Egypt, from human to animal. I shall make judgments on all the gods of Egypt. I am the Lord. And the blood will be as a sign for you on the houses in which you are. And I shall see the blood, and I shall halt at you. There won't be a plague among you as a destroyer when I strike in the land of Egypt. This day will become a commemoration for you, and you shall celebrate it, a festival to the Lord. You shall celebrate it through your generations in eternal law. 7 days you shall eat unleavened bread. You shall observe the unleavened bread, because in this very day I brought out your masses from the land of Egypt, and you shall observe this day through your generations and eternal law. There you have it, the actual menu and instructions. Lamb, bitter herbs, unleavened bread. That's it. There's no egg, there's no green vegetable, there's no salt water, there's certainly no gefilte fish. You mark your doorposts with hyssop and blood, you eat quickly, and you be ready to go. Nowhere are you told to lounge around the table and lay on your side. That's it. There are no further instructions, other than it is to be commemorated annually. The Torah, this holiday, is not called Passover anywhere. It is called the Festival of Unleavened Bread, Matzah. Now, the ancients had a plate with only 3 things on it, and 3 only: lamb, bitter herbs, matzah. So let's take a look at those 3. Lamb. It's the animal of the Bible. It's the symbol of man's sacrifice, sacredness of life, the career of leaders, the shepherd, the connection to Abraham, and the near sacrifice of Isaac. The bitter herbs, sadness, trouble, fear. But they can be consumed. They don't have to be consuming. When we consume the bitter, we bypass its problems and it becomes sweet. Matzah was the bread of the priest. We are holy. The leaven in man that we are to avoid is his ego. The egoless bread reminds us we are in Dererum Natura, the nature of things. This meal was initiated by the greatest spiritual ritual of all time, the marking of the doorposts of the home. The blood of the lamb, symbol of man. The the sacred symbol of a life force, blood, the one true forbidden food, mixed with the herb of cleansing, hyssop, spoken of in the Bible more than any other. Placed on the doorpost, symbol of our home, our foundation, therefore our lives, our existence. Acting as a message to God. Within these walls are those of faith and those who wish to be free. Now, as I said, one of the few parts of the Exodus story that we recreate is the recitation of the plagues. It's a true fan favorite. But what Exodus really did was free man to follow simple rules of life. And maybe we should focus on that too. The once daily recitation of the Ten Commandments was all there was in the realm of spiritual practice. There was no prayer service. The rest was up to the priest. Now, they hadn't been spoken yet, but they actually turned out to be just an expansion of the Noah laws of earlier. What more do we need to know than the 10 rules of life told in the singular to every person standing on the mountain of God? No other gods. There's only one. No images, because we can't imagine what it is. No broken oaths when we swear to God. Remember to cease. Honor your mother and father, or the roots of where you come from. No murder, no adultery, no stealing, no false witness, no coveting. Not so hard. No other gods. It's about honoring the one source of everything within you. Your relationship to your God is a personal thing because God lives within. Inspiration and goodness come from many sources, but they still all stem from the one. No image. As in the heavens above, the earth below, the waters beneath the earth. These are the 3 realms of the biblical world picture, each duly registered in the first creation story, It's easy to put faith in a substitute, especially since we have difficulty having faith in something that cannot be seen and has no form. But we're wise enough to know that only a personal, direct relationship with God has any reality. Everything is merely a sign along the road, and sometimes signs are mistaken for being it. This is the time you might want to ask, what have you been putting your faith in? Do not take the Lord's name in vain. It's about falsehood, not swearing false oaths. For many, this is the hardest to do because the essence of this commandment is in silence. All power stems from thought and then words. The Gospel of John begins, in the beginning was the Word. Everything's connected. Everything is God. So you cannot say something negative about anyone or anything because it takes away from the essence of God within. This is about knowing when to keep your mouth shut. Remembering the Sabbath, the ceasing. It's a day of appreciation of the world around you. Stop and enjoy the journey in your surroundings. Recharge, regenerate, appreciate. Because keeping only the destination in mind causes you to miss so much of what life offers. This is the lesson of nonlinear time, kairos time, not chronos time. It is subjective time where minutes can seem like hours, days like minutes. This is the time found in the rhythm of nature, with cycles and events, with your happy place. This is the time we are to remember. Honor your mother and father. It's about honoring your roots or where you come from. See, you're the product of your roots. So in honoring where you come from, you're actually honoring yourself. The mother and father represent the ideals of perfection of male and female. And in honoring that, we can return to it. Our lives are perfect, but are influenced by the people and events we encounter. Do not murder is often mistranslated in the King James Bible as kill. The original decree banned taking a life by intention. Murder destroys beauty and harmony, and everything is created in beauty and harmony. It can and most often is about the murder of spirit. When you murder spirit, you're polluting your own existence. This is the heart of the matter, and a beating heart controls all our organs. And if you murder anything, it will pollute everything. Because the heart is connected to everything. The things we murder the most are the spirits of ourselves and of others. If you murdered your spirit or the spirit of another, this can be as simple as calling somebody stupid or doing anything to diminish them. And in so doing, you destroy the great heart. There's to be no adultery because the essence of adultery lies in our emotions. This is about our feelings and being emotionally connected to our spouse. You must not adulterate or contaminate your spiritual life through emotional reaction, or don't let your ego get out of control. Do not steal. Just as the seventh commandment pointed to our emotional side, the eighth commandment points to our intellectual side. When we steal, we violate the energy of a balanced relationship. We upset equilibrium. It could be as simple as stealing an apple from a grocery store by eating it as you shop, or stealing time at work and making personal calls. Perhaps you've taken the words of others as your own. If we do this, we carry that imbalance with us, and that affects our thoughts. No false witness. This is an attack on the foundation we stand on, the false ego to beware of. The commandment saying do not lie, either against someone else or yourself. Lies create their own momentum. You get trapped by them until there's no escape. A foundation built on falseness will ultimately collapse. It is the story of the boy who cried wolf. And finally, do not covet. Now, the Hebrew verb mad has a range of meaning from yearn for to desire to lust after to want. Coveting is longing for, and the distance between coveting and taking can be extremely narrow. When you covet, you no longer appreciate your own things. This diminishes your own spark of humanity because you're saying that yours isn't good enough. You prefer what someone else has. You prefer their life to your own. This is denial and negation of who you are and what you've created. For everything in our lives is the result of our own energy and our own only. So let us all, everyone, tell the story of his or her or their freedom as a symbol to all. Celebrate as we did 3,400 years ago. Nobody did the Ten Commandments. They didn't know the Ten Commandments. I only did them because those are things that you need to keep in mind. Now, the second way to honor the holiday is simply to look at the foods in terms of past, present, and future. And each of the foods actually affects each tense. Lamb takes us to the origins of our people, physically, spiritually. The horns of the altar, shofars, the items of sanctuary, an animal with the perseverance ability of the present to survive, an animal that can move forward. Bitter herbs. The bitter aspects of the past allow us to remember and honor history, because whatever bitter situation you go through now, we're reminded you will get through. We cannot expect there never to be any bitter times again. But when they arise, in present circumstances, we can overcome them, as we have and we will when they occur again. And the matzah, the festival we honor. The Exodus, a permanent reminder, hurry and leave. A refrain we're used to. We're showing us the road to freedom from whatever constrained us then and now, and to keep the faith. To keep the story alive as we were told to, and as we have for almost 3,500 years, and to remind us we are and can strive to be a holy people, each of us individually, as we eat the egoless bread of the priest. So make this evening a haga. Do not read. Tell the story. Tell your story. Be an example. How did you find freedom? Our sages tell us we're to tell the story as if we were being freed from Egypt, and we are. Don't think of Egypt as Egypt. Think of Egypt as constraint. We all have been. We all have constraints, restrictions, pharaohs in our lives, the fears which drain and steal our love of life. Friends, this is your opportunity with your family, with yourself. Tell your story. We all have overcome fear. Inspire those around you. You could do so by still using the symbols you grew up with. Put down that book. Don't pick it up. Don't even read from it that night. Tell the story by looking at the traditional Seder plate, the one you know. The entire history is right there. That's what you're going to be doing, next week. You're going to be doing the modern Seder plate. And any who has overcome fear and constraint, you all have, in one way or another, have to lead others, teach others, help others to see the path of freedom. We do it with food. We do it with questions. You don't need to read the book. Don't read the book. Even if you cannot do the original, look at the food. Or the more modern Seder plate and ask those 4 special questions. On all other nights, we don't dip even once. On this night, why do we dip twice? Of course, the twice is we dip for the karpas, the green vegetable, in salt water, and we dip the bitter herbs in haroseth to sweeten them. On all other nights, we eat either bread or matzah. On this night, why only matzah? On all other nights we eat herbs of any kind. On this night, why bitter herbs? The fourth one, which actually doesn't belong. On all other nights we eat our meals in any manner. On this night, why do we sit around the table in a reclining position? That was an added question from Second Temple times, from Roman times. Now, outside of the fourth question, these other three relate to the paragraph of instructions from Exodus which we read, the one that actually gives the instructions for the evening. But that fourth question, the reclining while eating, just goes against the be ready to leave order that's actually already there. So think of those main three questions. They correspond even more to the instructions given, and they correspond to the three main foods eaten at the Seder, the three which must be mentioned. The three we spoke of, the three which remind us of the definition of the evening, about it being a ritual of protection from death, Abraham's sacrifice of the ram in place of Isaac, the blood from the sacrifice of the doorposts and lintels, which is the sacrifice we make as a family to commence the evening, overcoming the bitterness, anger, and sadness in life, the bitter herbs, and in eating the bitter we overcome it. The bitter doesn't overcome us, it becomes sweet. And joining the ranks of the holy. Matzah, the egoless bread that does not rise, the bread of the priest. If you're using the modern Seder plate, the traditional Second Temple one that you're used to, you can still tell the entire story because the entire story is contained in food. Everything on that plate symbolizes an aspect of Exodus. So for those used to the modern plate, let's just use it. We know the plate. Yeah, the 3-item one is simpler, but we don't know it the same way. We know the modern one. Instead of 3 items, there's only 6. It's not that bad. First, roa, the roasted shank bone of the lamb, the Passover offering, the dominant sacrifice animal of the Torah. It reminds us of Abraham's near sacrifice of Isaac, of our origins, of shepherding, the career choice of the patriarchs and of Moses. Rashi viewed shepherding as the career choice of the intellectual. It took little effort and allowed plenty of time to think. It evokes the Paschal lamb, which our forefathers offered to God and ate as the meal in which we eat on this night as our sacrifice, our exchange. Most people don't eat lamb for this holiday anymore. Second one is Beza, the boiled or roasted egg, for spring and for the birth of the Jewish people, whose roundness symbolizes the circle of life and death. The universal symbol from every society, everywhere. The world egg, cosmic egg, as we see in so many cultures. The primordial being comes into existence through hatching from the egg, such as Ra to the Egyptians, or rising from the primordial waters of earth like the Greek omphalos. The egg-shaped navel of the earth is honored at Delphi. Carpus, the green vegetable. Usually it's parsley, but if you have hyssop, use it. The first fruit of the season, which we dip in salt water to remind us of our tears and of the lintels and doorposts. Maror, the bitter herb. Most people just use horseradish to remind us of the bitterness of Egyptian bondage and slavery, but it signifies the bitterness of any confining situation when we feel overwhelmed. On a deeper note, the maror of bitter herbs reminds us slavery wasn't really what it was about, because the name for Egypt in biblical times was Mitzrayim, the root of which is Mem Tzadi Resh Meitzir, which means to limit, to bind, to restrict. The things we do to ourselves, to imprison ourselves in fear. We eat the maror not just to remind us of the bitter past, but because we can survive bitterness. And from it comes the sweet taste of freedom in life. We are survivors. So please take a moment, remember and honor the victims of, as well as the few remaining survivors of the Holocaust. There is a danger in forgetting and distancing ourselves too much. Their story of freedom is our story of freedom and must stand as a shining example of the indomitable spirit of man. The fifth item on the plate is the charoset, the magical mixture of fruit and nuts to remind us of the mortar, which we used in making the pyramids, but of course we never did make the pyramids. So it could not represent the mortar of the pyramids, but it does represent mortar. It had a mystical formula comprised of 3 roots and 7 fruits from the trees of the Garden of Eden, representing the tree of life, and as such represents the mortar that holds the universe together. And of course that mortar is love. The last item, the matzah, the bread of affliction and hurry, which did not rise because we left so quickly. For those who know a little Hebrew, the root of command, good deed, unleavened bread, is the same. In one case it is mitzvah, in the other it is matzah. And rather than see the matzah, the unleavened bread, as a bread of affliction, how appetizing is that as the name of a holy day? Instead, see it as the bread of holiness, and the priest allows us to be priest-like for 7 days. It is unleavened. It does not rise. It is the bread without ego, which is the leavening agent of man. It is from the plate, the food you share. You get so much about life and the struggle and freedom. There's your whole story. You don't have to read anything in the book. The biggest modern change in Passover is in the plate. With the following things having recently been added, we got now oranges for lesbians. And not because the orange has anything to do with women and lesbians in particular, but because it caught on after introduced by Susanna Heschel. Olives, as a call for peace between Israelis and Palestinians. Fair trade coffee, to fight forced child labor and represent the plight of the farm worker. Artichokes, for interfaith families. I don't know why. I don't get that, but it is. But all these additions do is continue to divide and segregate instead of bringing all together. It will reach a point where these types of additions mean nothing. Why not add something for every cause? How about something for climate change? For stopping the use of plastic? You name it, you add an ingredient to the plate. It just takes it away. The Passover celebration commemorates an event which will symbolize for all time the essential meaning of freedom. Freedom directed to a purpose. When Israel came forth from bondage, it was not simply to enjoy liberty, but to make liberty an instrument of service for all. Are you offering yourself in the service of others? These are the stories of freedom you should be telling. Your story is the story of freedom you should be telling. And you all have one. Each of you has felt the Pharaoh of your life, has fought to free themselves from the constraint. You don't have to read from a book about things that do not tell the story. Look at what lies in front of you. Let the story tell itself. Learn from those with you. Go and celebrate your freedom. Teach others to be free. Shabbat shalom, my friends, and blessings to you all.